This is a presentation on the relationship between neuroscience and psychology, and different areas of research where the two fields have been linked. Neuroscience is a scientific study of the nervous system. It deals with the anatomy, physiology, and biochemistry of nerves and focuses on their relationship to behavior and learning. Psychology is the study of mind and behavior and is usually concerned with the methods through which behavior can be modified. These two branches of science are so closely related that they are combined into one separate field, neuropsychology. Structural variances in the brain can biologically influence our actions and emotions, demonstrating that neuroscience is directly related to psychology. This next study compares the structure of criminal minds to normal functioning brains to see if structural differences can account for psychotic disturbances. This study compared CT brain scans of psychopaths, people with antisocial personality disorder, to non-psychopaths. They observed an average of 18% reduction and thinning in the amygdala in a psychopath's brain structure. Amygdala is the control center of emotion, and a reduction may cause a lack of remorse, empathy, and an absence of morals commonly seen in criminals. Another related study compared 21 people with antisocial personality disorder and a control group with no mental illness. Researchers noticed an average 9% reduction in volume for the brain's middle and orbital frontal gyri in the mentally ill. These areas in the frontal lobe regulate decision-making, problem-solving, and control of purposeful behaviors. Schizophrenia is another mental illness that connects neuroscience and psychology. Auditory hallucinations are common in patients with schizophrenia. Since no external stimulus exists, these phenomena must arise spontaneously from normal brain neuron activity. Therefore, schizophrenics must have a disruption somewhere along their auditory pathway, in the ear, cochlea, auditory nerve, or processing centers. A study of postmortem schizophrenic brains have discovered loss of neurons in the hippocampus and amygdala. The hippocampus is a small organ in the temporal lobes that is involved with emotion and long-term memory. This study proposed that auditory hallucinations arise when auditory fragments stored in the hippocampus are released intermittently because of lack of regulation from another brain region. Case studies further linking neuroscience and psychology are ones such as Phineas Gage, who provides a direct relationship between brain structure and personality and behavior. In a construction accident, Gage's orbifrontal and ventromedial cortices were damaged. An iron spike tore through his left frontal lobe. Although he fully recovered, his personality and social skills were reported as extremely different. Gage's change to sociopathic tendencies was later attributed to the structural damages inflicted on his frontal lobe. Damage in the frontal lobes, which are active in recognizing consequences and suppressing unacceptable behaviors, caused an involuntary change in his personality, giving us insight into more similar cases such as strokes and Alzheimer's.
Neuroscience research on music's effect on the brain is closely linked to its impact on us psychologically. The type of music you listen to can play a significant role in determining your current attitudes and emotions. This is caused by the different effects music has in your brain chemically. Music can also influence your memory and long-term temperament. Near the end of 2012, an article was published in Psychology Today describing the work of two Netherlands scientists, Jacob Gelege and his student, Maik Moors. They were able to find a connection between music and a person's perception and explanatory style, which is how one chooses to explain why they've experienced a specific event. Their simple experiment was to have people look at smiling, frowning, and neutral faces while listening to happy or sad music. While listening to happy music, the participants were found to be more likely to say the neutral faces were smiling. On the flip side, they were more likely to say the face was frowning when listening to sad music. Neuroscientist Nina Kraus has studied the path that music takes around our brains. She explains that music enters the brain from the brainstem, then translates into brain waves that match the musical sound waves that had already entered the brain. She also explains that humans and songbirds are the only animals that can automatically feel a song's beat. She goes on to explain that when we hear music, the body's initial response is to dance. It has been found, and she states, the human heart wants to synchronize to music, the legs want to swing metronomically to a beat. Our bodies, she concluded, are made to be moved by music and moved to it. By looking at PET imaging and MRIs, neuroscientists have also been able to link treatments of music to releases in dopamine in the brain. Labs doing research on this topic have found that randomizing your music, so not playing the same playlist in the same order over and over again, will increase your dopamine in the brain, making you happier and practically giving you a natural high. Researchers have also found that listening to intense music that gives you a sense of anticipation will release more dopamine in your brain than repetitive music. Whether it's a single song or a repeated playlist, the brain will decrease its release of dopamine when it becomes accustomed to how music will sound, though it's still more than the amount of dopamine that's released without music. That's not to say you should never listen to a song more than a few times. Multiple experiments have proven that listening to songs that are connected to your most cherished memories and emotions will remind you of them. By looking at fMRI charts, researchers have found that the upper part of the medial prefrontal cortex in the brain is directly responsible with facilitating connections between music, memory, and feeling centers. UCD Associate Professor of Psychology Peter Janata describes music as a soundtrack for our own mental movie. Unfortunately, that movie can quickly become convoluted. It has been proven that by listening to an important song multiple times, you're adding more memories to be associated with it. By doing this, your brain starts to lose connection with the original beloved memory. But that doesn't change the fact that music has a profound influence on our emotions and our personalities. Scientists are still trying to fully understand the psychology of music preference. Up until now, they understand that the type of music you like is linked to your basic personality, connected to traits such as self-esteem, creativity, hardworking, gentle, at ease, and outgoingness. But researchers are still trying to figure out why. Psychological disorders and music are only two of the infinite themes and topics that connect neuroscience to psychology. The mind and the brain are two closely linked objects that heavily depend on each other. Though they have different roles, neuroscientists and psychologists work very closely together to ensure the physical and